It's 6 p.m. on a Tuesday evening here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let's start with the headlines. President Park Geun-hye calls on her cabinet to push for more security and effective sanctions that will drill some fear and sense into North Korea. On the economic front, the government introduces plans to boost consumption. 2015 was a slow year for China. The world's second-largest economy has recorded its weakest annual growth in 25 years. So far, Korean markets have reacted with relative calm, but experts are concerned about how long that will last. Warmth trumps fashion in Seoul as the mercury dips all the way down to 14 degrees Celsius below zero. And it looks like the freezing conditions are here to stay through this week and the next. We start at the presidential office of Cheongwade, where President Park Geun-hye is calling for full-scale diplomatic efforts towards stronger and more comprehensive UN sanctions on North Korea. Song Ji-sun has our top story.
President Park Geun-hye maintained her firm stance against North Korea's fourth nuclear test conducted 2 weeks ago. At the third cabinet meeting of the year, the president directed government ministers to work closely with the South allies to come up with sanctions that will actually change the North.
만약 이번에도 강력하고 실효적인 조치들이 도출되지 못한다면 5차, 6차 핵실험을 해도 국제사회가 자신을 어쩌지 못할 것이다 하는 잘못된 신호를 북한에 주게 될 것입니다. 이번에야말로 자신들의 잘못된 행동이 어떤 결과를 가져오는지를 북한이 확실하게 깨달을 수 있게 해야 할 것입니다.
She also called for full military readiness against any North Korean provocation, both on the border and online, to guard against cyber attacks. Shifting to domestic politics, the president reiterated her call on the parliament to pass a slate of long-pending economy-related bills. She said this should be the year people feel the effects of the reforms outlined in her 3-year economic innovation plan, and for that to happen, the related bills must be implemented as soon as possible. On Monday, the president had joined a public petition drive urging lawmakers to pass economy-related bills, and on Tuesday, she called on them to at least move forward with the labor reform package during next month's extraordinary session. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Korea is gearing up to hold another nationwide sales event ahead of the Lunar New Year's holiday. The Korea Grand Sale returns again starting January 25th through February 7th, offering shoppers special discounts and deals, some as big as 50% off local products. The government announced today some 2,500 businesses, including traditional markets across the country, will take part. Shoppers will also get the added benefit of up to 2 hours of free parking near traditional market sites. The country has hosted similar events, including the K-Sale Day and Korea Black Friday, to help local retailers tackle sluggish domestic consumption last year in the wake of the MERS outbreak. The chairman of Korea's main opposition party has announced he will step down from his post amid the turmoil engulfing the party that has resulted in the departure of several of its members in recent weeks. But he gave no hint as to when his last day will be. Shin Se-min looks into the implications of this decision.
The chairman of the main opposition Minjoo Party of Korea says he is willing to step down from his post, but not just yet. Speaking at a press conference on Tuesday, Moon Jae-in said there is no reason for him to hold on to the position.
I will resign as soon as the party's new leadership takes shape. I'm sure that my decision will benefit the party.
Moon stopped short of offering a target date for when the interim party leadership would be ready to take over. He did say, however, that he hopes his departure will both unite the party and consolidate the opposition bloc, including the People's Party launched by An Cheol-soo. An, who once co-chaired the party, walked away from it last month over a leadership dispute with Moon, prompting more than a dozen party members to follow suit. That, along with a widening factional rift within the party, has intensified the pressure on Moon to resign. When Moon goes, the interim leadership will be in charge of steering the party through an updated parliamentary election in April. The outgoing party chief said he is confident the party will prevail, no matter who is in charge, but vowed to shoulder the responsibility in any case.
Even if I'm not in the leadership position, I will take full and infinite responsibility for the outcome of the April general elections.
Moon also said he sees the election as an opportunity for the Minjoo Party of Korea to heal the political divisions splitting the country. But it's too early to say whether his resignation will be enough to end the exodus and unite the party in time for the elections in April. 신세민, 아리랑 뉴스.
The senior U.S. diplomat is in Seoul as the two allies look to coordinate their response to North Korea's fourth nuclear test. The provocation has severely raised tension in the region, but South Korea and the U.S. know they'll need China's cooperation to ensure Pyongyang is punished in any meaningful way. Connie Kim has this report.
South Korea and the United States are still working on ways to persuade China that it's time North Korea be hit with the toughest sanctions yet in the wake of its recent nuclear test. U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Tony Blinken is in Seoul on a two-day visit for talks with South Korea's Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se and Vice Foreign Minister Im Seong-nam.
South Korea and the U.S. will focus on ways to cooperate in response to North Korea's nuclear test, including a UN Security Council resolution.
Following his talks in Seoul, Blinken will travel to Beijing on Wednesday for talks with Chinese Vice Foreign Minister Chang Ye-sui. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry will also visit China next week to pressure Beijing to join the other members of the six-party nuclear talks in punishing Pyongyang for its latest provocation. China has emphasized the need for an appropriate level of UN measures, while South Korea, the U.S., and Japan are pushing for stronger and comprehensive sanctions. The meetings come on the heels of a series of talks between the six-party members, as well as a meeting between South Korea's top nuclear envoy Hwang Jung-guk and his Russian counterpart Igor Morgulov in Moscow on Tuesday. Russia has been calling for all interested parties to refrain from taking actions that could raise tensions in Northeast Asia. South Korea will continue its efforts to bring out a strong and effective UN Security Council resolution on North Korea, as it's set to hold a series of meetings with members of the UN Security Council in New York through Wednesday. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Moving on, China expanded at its slowest annual pace since 1990 last year, intensifying the pressure on policymakers to introduce more measures to boost the economy. With the growth figure widely matching expectations, markets here in Korea took the news calmly, but experts say there are still lingering uncertainties. For details, we turn to Hwang Ji-hye.
China grew 6.9% in 2015, marking its weakest annual expansion in a quarter of a century. The slowdown comes as the world's second largest economy moves to a safer and more sustainable growth model focused on domestic consumption over government investment.
The industrial sector saw growth of 27.42 trillion yuan, up 6% from the previous year, and the service sector saw growth of 34.17 trillion yuan, up 8.3% from the previous year.
Chinese slowing growth figures, however, raised investors' hopes for a fresh round of stimulus measures, sending local shares up 3.2%. The latest data were also in line with what most economists have been expecting.
Given that, Korea's stock market remained relatively calm following the news from China, with the benchmark index edging up 0.6% on Tuesday.
Still, experts are skeptical about whether the current trend will continue, especially in the face of plunging oil prices, which are expected to go lower after international sanctions on Iran were lifted over the weekend.
Local shares will remain jittery, given the lingering worries about crude oil prices falling below the $20 mark.
It was one of the worst beginnings to a year, not just for Korean shares, but global stocks extended their slide into a third week as oil prices slid to a fresh 12-year low. And when will we see the light after this seemingly endless tunnel? Experts say it won't come until sometime during or even after the second quarter. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
Korea's producer prices were down 4% last year, marking the biggest yearly drop since 1990 when related figures were first compiled. The Bank of Korea says plunging global oil and raw material prices led the slide. The price of Dubai crude, which Korea uses as its benchmark, had tumbled to the $30 a barrel level last month, down sharply from the $50 plus level it was at in January 2015. Even after Korea was slammed by the Asian financial crisis back in 1999, producer prices only dropped around 2%. With producer prices a major indicator for consumer prices, it's widely forecast prices will remain low. Hyundai Motor and its affiliate Kia Motors are on track to land in fourth place in global green car sales for 2015. According to industry data, the two Korean automakers sold nearly 74,000 eco-friendly vehicles last year. The sales figures include hybrids, electric fuel cell, and plug-in hybrid vehicles. Based on the January to November sales data available for major automakers, Hyundai and Kia are expected to climb up a notch to fourth, with 66,000 vehicles. In the top three are Toyota, Honda, and Renault-Nissan. The two Korean car makers were followed by Ford, which sold 63,000 vehicles. The rankings are unlikely to change when the December sales figures are added. The number of foreign visitors to Korea went down for the first time in 12 years last year due to the outbreak of Middle East respiratory syndrome. The Korea Tourism Organization says just over 13.2 million tourists visited Korea in 2015. That's down nearly 7% from the previous year. The number of travelers rose about 10% in the first 5 months, but it plunged 40% from June to August when concerns over the outbreak were at their peak. MERS took the heaviest toll on the number of Chinese tourists as well, which declined over 2% last year. The number showed signs of recovery in September, and it rose 5% on year in October thanks to major discount events held by retailers. The number of outbound travelers rose more than 20% to over 19 million in 2015, thanks to cheaper airfares by low-cost carriers and longer than usual national holidays. Less than 2 weeks after North Korea's latest nuke test, the South Korean Army is in the thick of its regular winter training exercises. Just yesterday, it conducted a river crossing exercise, a crucial operation on the peninsula during wartime. Kim Yeon-bin takes us closer to the action.
A fleet of K-2 Black Panther tanks cuts through a blizzard, ready for action. In less than a minute, the tanks have made a river crossing, firing off rounds of ammunition and dropping smoke bombs along the way to deter the enemy. Soon afterward, several bridge erection boats appeared, escorted by a fleet of Apache attack helicopters equipped with anti-tank missiles. Within just an hour, the unit has built a 200-meter-long bridge, and over 200 vehicles carrying troops and loaded down with supplies crossed safely. This is all part of the Korean 20th Army Division's week-long winter river crossing exercise in Chungcheongbuk-do Province, which got underway last Friday.
Our division is Korea's best mechanized unit, and we go through intensive training. We are ready to extinguish any enemy provocations.
This is the first time the amphibious K-2 tanks have been part of the exercise.
As the platoon leader, I am confident that no matter what the cause, we will come out on top of our enemies.
The Korean peninsula is covered with rivers both big and small. And given how many bridges could be destroyed in a time of war, the river crossing operation is crucial, providing the military with an important way of transporting troops and supplies. The drill runs through Saturday. Kim Yeon-bin, Arirang News.
If you're watching us here in Korea, you'll be well aware that we are experiencing some of the most severe winter weather so far this season. And what's worse is that the Arctic temperatures look set to stick around for the next several days at least. Our Oh So-young braved the cold to file us this report.
As we wade deeper into midwinter in Korea, we're feeling the kind of temperatures that chill you to the bone. In Seoul, the mercury started out at just minus 14 degrees Celsius on Tuesday morning, the coldest it's been this season. But with the biting wind, it felt more like minus 25 degrees Celsius for anyone out on the streets. It was the first time this season that a cold wave warning had been issued in Seoul.
I'm wearing lots of layers, but I'm so
I think today is the coldest day ever.
I've put on 3 layers of clothing, but it's still freezing cold.
Much of Korea's central region is also under a cold wave watch. There's snow too in the southwestern part of the country and the mountainous parts of Jeju Island, where heavy snow advisories remain in place. The intense cold has already had grave consequences for area residents. Local health authorities say 6 people have died from illnesses caused by sub-freezing temperatures. And with the icy road conditions, there was a huge collision along Honam Expressway in Jeollabuk-do province. According to government authorities, 22 cars were involved in the accident on Tuesday afternoon, which left 4 people injured. The brutal winter conditions won't be getting much better for the foreseeable future. The mercury is forecast to stay well below zero through at least the middle of next week, when conditions should return to seasonal norms. So in the meantime, make sure you wrap up nice and warm in multiple layers and keep your eyes out for slippery patches on the street. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
And we've come to the end of this hour's newscast. For more updates, do join us at 10 p.m. Korea time. Thank you for watching.